You know why I drive a $500 car? People make fun of me. They're like, man, the headliner's falling down in your car. Why don't you go get yourself a better vehicle? Do you live in your vehicle? How come you make your videos from your car? I drive that piece of shit car. You know why? It's because stuff like this happens. Like somebody smashed into the hell of it, ran all the way down the side. I guess I don't have to worry about the damn spider in the mirror anymore, do I? Man. Oh well, like what do I care, right? $500. Oh man. Good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. Oh, man. That sucks. At least the door still operates. I guess it ain't too bad. Just got back from the post office to find my car has been smashed. I think I know what's in the package, so I'm going to open that up at the same time. I'm going to talk a little bit about credible threats. So now, if you're new to my channel, or actually, I guess if you have been here for a while, then you know about credible threats. I mean, we've talked about credible threats quite a bit in the past, and it's what I feel is the Federal Reserve's like main tool for trying to deal with the economy. Now, it really goes back to a speech that Bernanke gave back in like 2001. Like, it was a long time ago he gave this speech, and they knew that they were going to be running into the lower bound. They knew that interest rates were eventually going to get so low that they would not be able to drop them any further in order to stimulate the economy. And he said, but that's okay, because there is plenty of other things that we can use in order to make the economy continue to progress along without having to drop interest rates like we typically would. And he said one of those things that we can use is, well, he didn't term them credible threats. I think they actually used the credible threat as part of the language, but I don't think that they were like, hey, we got this credible threat that we can use. That's my term that I've picked up for him. But the credible threat comes from a story that he told about a guy who invents a gold machine, right? And with this gold machine, I'm going to open this up as I talk. And with this gold machine, he's able to produce as much gold at will with very little cost, energy. And the moment that this information gets out and the public finds out about it, the price of gold on the open market would immediately plummet, knowing that there is a guy out there who can make as much gold as he wants with very little energy or cost. Even before the guy produces a single ounce of gold, just the credible threat alone would be enough to move the markets. And it is my belief that that is exactly what the Federal Reserve is doing right now, in conjunction with the Treasury. See, now the Treasury has just recently said, we no longer want these here lending programs. We're going to go ahead and take that money on back. How do you feel about that, Federal Reserve? And Federal Reserve says, I think it's very irresponsible of you to go ahead and do this, even though we knew that this was going to expire in December, and that this is already an extension, considering that it should have expired back in September. So now this argument has started to rise up about whether or not they should have this lending facility and what to do with the money. Now, a lot of people are going to start arguing. It's just like, well, the Trump administration wants to spend that money before the Biden administration can come in and have that money for small businesses and whatnot. This is the argument that they're starting to use. Like, the Federal Reserve is saying that, like, this money should be there to support the businesses in the time of need. My personal belief is that the businesses don't need support in such manners of like give them loans. They are already suffering under the weight of loans. They don't need any more loans. They need grants. And that's something that Mnuchin is trying to say is like, hey, if we take this money back, we could actually give this money out as grants. Not saying that he's going to do that, just saying that that's a possibility. However, I don't feel that it doesn't matter either way. It's about the credible threat of the special purpose vehicle. See, all this is just hoopla so that the argument can be brought up in order to get the investor to believe a certain direction is going to happen or not. So like the investor can believe, it was like, oh my God, these corporate lending facilities are going to end. What are we going to do? We got to get rid of our corporate bonds. And all of a sudden they say, no, fine, we'll extend it. And they're like, yay, corporate bonds. You see what I'm saying here is just like, they don't do anything. In fact, I got a Wolf Street article that I'm going to leave down in the links for you. It goes to show like these special purpose vehicles did nothing as far as buying corporate debt. Very small amounts of it. And in fact, the Federal Reserve even said it was just the mere idea of bringing up these special purpose vehicles to buy these corporate debts was enough to get the markets to go out there and buy enough corporate debt that the Federal Reserve didn't need to do it. The interest rates came down on them, and these corporations were able to borrow at extremely low interest rates during a time of the recession, just because the Federal Reserve said that they were going to produce this special purpose vehicle in order to buy these corporate debts, but they never really did it. I mean, they got the vehicle up, they got the entity up, they lent it the money, they went out and bought some ETFs, a little bit of it, but didn't even come close to what the capabilities of them were. And this is what the Federal Reserve is concerned about losing, is this credible threat. See, if they take that away, and like I said, the investors would be like, oh my gosh, the Federal Reserve isn't there to back us up anymore. We got to get rid of these things because, we're sitting on a whole crap load of corporate debt. Doesn't make sense, does it? Until you start thinking about it this way. So to me, I think, honestly, the Fed and Mnuchin, I think, are in conjunction right now, working in cahoots. They're doing this on purpose. They are trying to raise the argument to get rid of it. Like, hey, we're the good guys. We're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to pull the money back out of the system. And the Federal Reserve's like, no, that's not being the good guy. That's not being the right thing. You need to be able to support the businesses, and you need to keep that money in here flowing, even though it's still an exigent and unusual circumstance that we are going to carry on to for the foreseeable future. Crazy stuff. Anyway, let's see what's in this box. I have a feeling I know what it is. I've been emailing this guy. And, I am really looking forward to using this thing. One of the things that I had talked about was starting to do more writing. I've done a little bit. I've practiced writing some stuff down. I would love to start writing a lot more. I would like to start writing like maybe some articles, and maybe even getting into the idea of putting that book together, because a lot of people have asked me to do something like that. And, literature isn't exactly my strong point. A lot of people have that, it's funny because a lot of people are surprised by that when I tell them. It's just like, yeah, I have a hard time reading books. And they're just like, they're blown away. They're like, man, how were you able to like gather all this knowledge, about the economy and have all these different, perspectives coming in and not have read any books? It just doesn't seem to make any sense. And really, it's because I have just read a lot of stuff. I have really listened. I've done a lot of listening to lectures, and anytime that I saw something like on the news or something that I didn't understand, like there was a phrase that was said, or something was brought up and I had no idea what they were talking about, I would Google that, and then I would listen to I would look at many different articles or people talking about that scenario or that particular topic, and I would just take in as much information as I could and then try and draw my own conclusions from everything. It's kind of something I've always done. Like I have always, like anytime somebody was giving in some information out there or something, I would always sit back and I would listen, take in the information, and then try and gather some other perspectives. So it's like, hey man, what are you thinking about this? What are you thinking about that? You're in the industry. How does that work? And so I try and bring in a bunch of different ideas to it, because a lot of times people will have like a really good idea about a particular direction of something. And I know a guy who's in the logging industry, and he knows a lot about what's going on in the logging industry itself, but he doesn't know a lot about, like, say, the lumber industry or like lumber sales, because that's not what he does. He's more about forestry stuff, things that are happening with like, equipment and stuff, things that are not like related to this lumber sales. So even though it's a related kind of business, it doesn't have anything to do with each other. And then when you start looking at the grand scheme of things, like, you're looking at the log industry, you're looking at the mill industry, you're looking at the retail sale industry, and pretty soon you got this forestry product industry that you're looking at, and you're seeing a much bigger picture on things that are happening. Starts giving you a better idea of like, what's going to happen inside of lumber futures markets, or what's going to happen inside of like home sales and like the cost of construction and things like that. I mean, we saw that happen over the course of the summer. I knew it was going to take place. I mean, I knew it when I saw the prices rise, and I'm like, man, I have never seen anything like this before. The price of a house is going to get super expensive to build. And man, did it ever. And now, everybody's just screaming about how awesome the housing market is. And every time I think, if it's unbelievable, if you're looking at it going, I cannot believe it's this high, I cannot believe it's this good, that's about the time you need to worry. Okay? And same thing when it's a reverse. I cannot believe it's selling this cheap. I mean, can you believe that it's going for this low? That's when you buy. Everybody's going to be scared at that point. They're going to be like, man, don't even touch that stuff. It's worthless. Yeah, if it's worthless, that's when you want to buy because it doesn't cost that much. Okay, here we are, guys. Oh, man, right on. A ThinkPad. Very cool, brother. Thank you so much, and I cannot wait to use it. Maybe I can incorporate this into the videos so that we can, because I used to do a lot more reading on the videos, like reading quotes and stuff like that, and I think that was a lot really helpful. Very cool. It looks old school. It looks like a tank. I love it. Right on. Well, I'm going to go play with this right now. Let's see here. Is there anything else I want to say? Oh, for those of you who are interested in the Uneducated Economist apparel stuff, we've updated the Teespring site a little bit so that there is a little bit more variety as far as colors. Somebody's going to be walking by here. She has no idea she's going to be on YouTube. So there's a little bit more color variety, and then there's a couple of different sweatshirt options as far as hoodies go. There's a higher quality one that's in there. There's some long sleeve t-shirts, short sleeve t-shirts, both in black and the blue colors. So for those of you who've been looking for t-shirts and stuff like that, working on hats. We're going to get hats on there real soon. So anyway, if you were looking for gift ideas for family and stuff like that coming up who would like some of the Uneducated Economist apparel, there is some new options over there on the Teespring site, and you can find it down in the description. Oh, and that was another thing. Somebody says, how do I get to the description? And, I guess, like, sometimes I kind of laugh at these things because, I just think, well, it's right there, But really, if you go down to the title, off to the side of the title, there should be a little drop-down arrow. And if you hit that arrow, bring up the description. And down in the description, I leave links to pretty much all my videos as far as articles to follow related to the topics that I've brought up. And then there's also links to, like, the Teespring site to buy yourself a sweatshirt or t-shirt or coffee cup or something. And then there's also, like, I put the PayPal account and stuff like that. Somebody kind of teased me the other day about it. I was like, man, you got a lot of ways to get tipped, And I'm like, well, yeah, I didn't really ask for any of that stuff, I mean, I do, when I put it down there, I'm saying, hey, thanks for tipping me. But, it was somebody else saying, hey, you should put a link to this in your description of your videos. And they just kept asking for these different ones for me to put down there. And so I do. And anyway, that's where it's at, and I thank you guys very much. Uneducated Economist. You guys have a great morning.